Welcome to We Talk Spanglish with your host, Manefta. So you guys want more of the tea, and we're back for part 2 of my traumatizing divorce. And I feel like children don't talk about how traumatizing a divorce can be for them as much as it is for the adults. So cheers to that and being super fucked up or choosing not to be fucked up. I know I didn't choose to be fucked up. However, we left off in a very cheesy, detailed part. We were sitting at the light, and my mom was telling me that that was not my dad's truck. I then look at her and I tell her, that is my dad's truck. And I read her the tag by memory. And in that very moment, a lady from a Mercedes station wagon, 9 months pregnant, gets out of that car, and as we're discussing this, proceeds to jump into my dad's truck. That's when my mom was like, she kind of like, I think it took her a second to like realize what the fuck was happening. Right in front of her. Right in front of her face. Like, for me, I always felt guilty because I was the one that realized that. I was the one that noticed the tag. I knew it by memory. Like, maybe we could have gone another 7 years without knowing that he was doing what he was doing. So this woman that gets in the truck not only gets into my dad's truck, but my mom knows her. My mom knows who this lady is, and she's calling her by her name, and she's calling him on the cell phone. The light turns green. They're racing each other as far as he's trying to like get away from her. And my mom's just like trying to follow him. But I'm seeing all of this. I'm sitting in the front seat, and I see my mom completely lose her shit. Like, poor lady. Okay, I can only imagine. Like, her whole world crumbled within those literal 2 minutes. So he speeds off and kind of like gets away from my mom. She loses him. She calms down. She drives back home. And I remember going to like the top part of the stairs, because like, you know how the stairs go up and then it has like another part that goes up, but in the middle there's like a little mezz area. And I'm standing there, and in that moment I hear my dad come through the door. And I'm thinking to myself, like, my heart was pounding, like the betrayal. Like, what is he gonna say to me? Like, I'm just a little girl. I'm 7 years old, and you know, looking back at it now, it's like I should have been easy to manipulate. But since I saw everything, it was like I saw it with my own 2 eyes. You cannot deny what I saw with my own 2 eyes. And my mom and him are fighting. I remember her getting the cell phone, the big cell phone, the block, the bodati, and she whacked him on the head with it. I remember that. And they were going back and forth. He was denying it. He was denying that that was his truck. He was denying that that was him. But the most fucked up part about all of it was that my mom knew who the lady was. And all this time, I was sheltered over the years and did not know who this lady was, who she really was. All I know is that this person, this stranger, got into my dad's truck in front of us, and she's definitely with child. She has a baby. So when all of that happens, you know, my mom is coming to realization. People are starting to find out. It just became like this big ordeal. And I remember thinking to myself, but how does everybody know who this lady is? Like, how does everyone know who this lady is? And before, you know, we got into a lot of detail, my mom sat me and my sister down. And mind you, this man had a whole life. He had 2 kids with this lady. He was on his 2nd child. And I want to say this happened like in June, because the child was born within the next month, who is my half-sister. And one day my dad just walks into the room and he's like, hey, get ready, we're gonna go have breakfast. So me and my sister got up. It was a Sunday. We get up and he's like, you guys are gonna meet your little sisters. And I'm like, what the fuck? Little sisters? I have little sisters? In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, this has to like, you know, be associated with the whole thing with what I saw. Obviously, I saw this woman pregnant and she gave birth to a child, and they're my siblings. So when we get there, before we get there, I remember my mom, my mom is There's no one like my mom. Like, I've never met such a forgiving person in my life. Till this day, I fight with her for being so forgiving. And she pulled me and my sister aside, and I forgot we were sitting in the car, and she said, look, you know, I want to tell you that this isn't your fault, and this isn't their fault. And, you know, I want to tell you eventually who this person was, who this woman was, because I knew her. And I'm like, what do you mean you knew her? And she's like, you know, she was one of my really good friends. And she left that at that. And I guess she did that because she didn't want me to hold resentment towards my sisters. And she was like, you know, you have to love them no matter what. They're your blood, and you need to forgive the whole scenario. And, you know, this woman is not a good person, but the kids do not have the fault. And she brought my little sister. I didn't see her. I didn't see her that day. I just saw my little sister. And it was the older one. And I knew that she also had a son because my mom had told me. So as time is going by, my parents are trying to figure their shit out, and Hurricane Andrew comes. Which, if you are part of Miami and you lived in Miami, or you were born and raised in Miami and you went through Hurricane Andrew, that will stay with me for the rest of my life. On top of the fact that my entire world was crumbling and my parents were getting divorced, and my father was not the person that I thought he was. He had a whole life with a whole other person. She lived in the neighborhood across from my neighborhood in Kendall. So we were like an avenue away from each other. And they, you know, basically had a whole house, kids, the whole nine. He had 2 families. I remember playing around when I was little. He used to tell me, dame un besito. And I would tell him, your breath stinks. And he would tell me, si tú no me das un besito, me voy a encontrar una niñita que me da un besito, which means that he'll find a little girl that will give him a kiss. And I always felt some kind of way about that. I always felt like once I realized that he really did have another little girl, I was like, that was where I was like, okay, this is like the ultimate of betrayals, because you betrayed me, you betrayed my sister, you betrayed my mom, and you straight bull-faced lied. So as he walks in, let's go back to that. He walks into the house and he looks at me after arguing with my mom, and I'm standing at the you know, the top of the stairs, and he's like, ven con papi, come mama, ven, come, give me a kiss. It's me, it's papi. I was like, this guy's this psycho killer, okay? This narcissistic motherfucker is trying to pretend like none of that happened. Like I did not see what the fuck I saw. Which is absolutely, and even in my 7-year-old world, was absolutely bonkers to me. And I did not want to talk to him. I felt like he lied to me. Like, you're lying right now. And I told him that. I said, but you're lying. And he kept on with it. And, you know, after that, they tried to work their shit out. And then I found out who my stepmom really was and how my mom knew her. And that's where things take a turn. And that's why my whole family was so affected by it. That's why all her friends were so affected by it, because everybody knew this woman. And from what I was told, there was speculation when I was younger. I want to say my sister was like maybe a year or 2. There was speculation that my mom's best friend, also my godmother of the church, she was my godmother. I was baptized at San Joaquin Church. Was like having an affair with my dad. And my mom was like, I, you know, completely want nothing to do with this woman. If this is true, she confronted my dad. They put it to bed and she just went away. We never heard from her again. Never heard anything about her. And there was real good reason for that. We know why we never heard from her. Because she had to be the biggest secret that he had ever created. And she was. She was just that. She was just that. And the way that it happened and the things that she doubled down. Like, this woman was relentless. And I didn't believe my mom. I kind of wanted to give my dad the benefit of the doubt. I want to say maybe like a year in. I loved my little sisters. I had a stepbrother. My parents did not stay together after Hurricane Andrew. I want to say maybe like in February, I want to say around that time. My mom was like, you need to get your shit. You can't be back and forth. He was staying in both houses, doing whatever he wanted. And that's when my mom put her foot down and she was like, no, we're going to sell this house and I want a divorce. And that's it. And he became even more insecure than he was before. Because he would follow my mom. He would have people follow my mom. My dad had money. My dad was wealthy. He had businesses. My dad owned the fishery in Watson Island. He had Cessnas. We lived in Bimini in the summers. We had a really good life. And my mom has always been a very humble person, a very good-hearted person. My mom will help anyone. My mom, till this day, goes and does goodie bags for Thanksgiving for the homeless. And that's where my kids and I get that from. I get that from my mom. And a lot of people used to tell me, well, you're going to realize when you're older that, those kids are not cut from the same cloth. And I look at these blended families and I'm like, wow, I wonder what we could have been like if this woman wasn't the way that she was. And my father wasn't the way that he was. And when you sit down from the outside and you look at these people, I mean, the level of toxicity that I was surrounding myself with. I have been no contact with my dad for 7 years. And I still, till this day, feel like that was the best thing that I ever did for me, for my kids, for my own family, because I was the only one that was going to be looking out for them. It wasn't going to be him. He was just going to continue to do things to bring me down. And as a kid, I didn't see that. He was my dad. He was my world. My mom was always more my world. I've always been more of a mommy's girl. And my sister was more of a daddy's girl. So my sister struggled more with that. And there being other little girls and her not being the baby anymore because she was the baby of my household. But you would think that, given that this lady was my godmother and my mother's fucking best friend, that she would have more sympathy and respect, at least for a child. And that was not the case. Unfortunately, that wasn't what happened. There's a lot of memories and there was a lot of love exchanged. And then there was also a lot of toxicity and a lot of horrible things that then grew into different aspects of my life. And I never thought would. And I tried to take my mom's route and be forgiving and loving and caring. And that was harder than I thought. And my mom is a way better person than I am. And my mom went through so many things. That lady did so many things to her. And she never changed. Money never changed my mom. Horrible things never changed my mom. Nothing changed her heart. And I admire that. And I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay, sorry. I needed to get some composure. So anyways, going back to when things started getting crazy. Basically my mom was like, look, I just don't want this woman around my kids. And it started getting to the point where it was like dramatic. Like it was a big, big toll. So, we'd be getting ready for school in the morning and we're getting ready for our day. And this woman, we used to have a phone at home. And this woman would call at 7 a.m. and leave my mom messages. And she would do this. My mom had tapes, boxes of tapes of all of the hours of message. And she would say the most fucking crazy shit. Like, oh, I'm going to take your daddy. I have your daddy. Like, mind you, I'm eating breakfast, trying to get ready for school, trying to pretend like my life was a little normal, some normalcy. And this woman just tried to take whatever child pureness I had. She tried to darken my world. And even after that, what my mom went through was horrible. And she basically drove my mom crazy. She would leave brujeria at the door. I would have friends over and my mom would be like, look, I'm really sorry, you guys have to pee on this, or certain things. My mom got into a deep religion of Christianity. At one point, she was searching for the answers in Santeria. And it was just a very confusing time for her. She was lost. She was trying to find herself within all of the betrayal. And then the hardest part of it all was that everybody knew. Everybody knew. Her sister-in-laws, her mother-in-law, like, they knew. They covered for him. They had his back, and they were always going to have his back. And mind you, my mom still talks to my grandmother and all of those people from that side. However, I'm different, and I struggled to find my medium in that, and I'm okay with it because I feel like all the things that I went through didn't change me, but they taught me to be more of the person that I don't want to be. And, you know, as time went on and, you know, they led through the divorce, and my mom, you know, did do something that was even more traumatic, you know, and her head was not in the right place. And I remember when the judge came and, you know, they were trying to figure out the whole custody thing because of everything that was going on. They weren't sure what was the best interest. We had to stay with my aunt, and she took care of us. I think it was for like 3 months. And within that time period, all of a sudden, my baby sister was so stressed out that she started having seizures. It was the worst night of my life. Even finding out all of that in front of me at such a young age and seeing all of those things and being exposed to such betrayal and heartache and trauma, that was hard because my sister was my other half. We are Irish twins, so we're like 18 months apart. We're extremely close. We were the only two. We had each other. Lots of cousins, but it was more so about us, our bond. And that was really hard, you know, and they were trying to figure out why she was, becoming epileptic. And it was due to stress. She would miss my dad. She would cry for him at night. And she really struggled with the divorce and the separation part of it all. And for me, being now the oldest of, let's say, a total of 4 or 5 kids, because it was just me and my sister before, I felt like I had so much more of a responsibility because I had to not worry about just my sister and how we were raised in our household, but I also had to kind of learn this routine of this new household. And as time went by and all that, you know, my mom had all those tapes and everything, and those were released, and I had them hidden. And thankfully, I had those tapes hidden because that did help a lot and showing how fucking batshit crazy she was. She was a sociopath. She would follow us. We would show up to places, and literally my dad was there. Like, he was with her. Like, if he was her PI or something. Like, I don't know what fucking powered this bitch's ego. And I know she was very obsessed with my mother. I remember she had a boyfriend at one point, and she had a BMW that my dad had given her. She wanted in the divorce, whatever. My mom didn't take shit from him. She should have raped him, but she didn't. She laid down and gave him everything and said, fuck that and fuck this and keep your bitch. And that's what happened. And we hadn't seen her. We hadn't had a weekend with my dad or anything like that. I would see my dad. He would come to visit me during lunch in school. He would bring me McDonald's. He would shoot the shit with us. But that he would come and take us for the weekend? Nah. My mom was like, nah, not my little Jules. This bitch is crazy. And I look back at it now and I think to myself, I don't think that I would have ever even let this woman around my kids. Like, I get why my mom was telling me these things about her. And then I remember one day, that's when my dad got fucking ballsy. And I was supposed to go over for the first time at his house. It was our first weekend at his farm. And that's where she lived. She lived in the farmhouse. And I was like, kind of nervous about it, but also felt confident. I also felt that like I knew what I wanted to do, or kind of like play out scenarios in my mind. And, you know, if this happens, I'll do this. Mind you, I'm 8 years old. I'm just a baby. I'm 8 or 9 at this point. Maybe it's been a year and a half since the whole, you know, reveal, the scandal of it all. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad would never put me in a position to make me uncomfortable. Boy, the fuck was I wrong. And I'm sitting in the car and he's like, we need to pick up your little sisters. And I was excited about that because my mom taught me, she was like, you have to love them. You know, they're your baby sisters and they have no fault in this and whatnot. And she was right. She's still right till this day, she's still right. And as a child, it was so much easier for me to be like, oh my God, these are like siblings now that I have to play with. So we were so good with them. We loved them. We accepted them. It was me and my sister. My sister definitely had a harder time than I did. I felt a little more motherly towards them, but the lady was still absent from this whole scenario. So my dad was basically just having fun with the kids. And, you know, we're waiting in the car and he gets off to go get them. And this fucking lady has come out, literally come out, just to show herself, to say hi to me. She wanted to say hi to me, and my dad's in the back like, no, 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 no. And I remember the only thing that my little brain, my little tiny Manefta brain could do or think of to protect myself was to close my eyes. And I remember closing my eyes and like I was holding them. Like I did not want a little inch to come out on there because I did not, you know, this lady was like Medusa in my mind. Like she was so fucking evil. And I mean, I was right. Everybody was right. She was fucking evil. But at the end of the day, I felt like I can protect myself by closing my eyes. And she was like talking to me. She was like, oh, you know who I am, this and that. And I was like, I'm not supposed to talk to you. And I don't want to talk to you. And she was like, you know, so she worked her way in and basically groomed me into becoming, you know, it becoming normal over time. And they would tell me not to tell my mom. And every time I would tell my mom. Every time I would tell my mom, I saw this lady. And I saw this lady. And I saw her this weekend. And I saw her there. My mom would get so upset. And rightfully so. She had every right to. Like, this person, once they finished doing, like, the psychoanalysis for, like, Child Protective Services, the people that, like, worked our case and stuff, they, like, the diagnosis of the doctor was that this lady was a schizophrenic. She was a narcissistic schizo. And, like, this is, like, by the law. So my mom was like, okay, this bitch is fucking crazy. I was right about her. She's giving Fatal Attraction. She gave Fatal Attraction. And as the years went by, she was everything and anything that I wished for my dad. She was a fucking piece of shit mom. She was a fucking drunk. Like, this lady, she loves Snow White. And she would have a lot of fun. My dad doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs, doesn't like to go to parties, doesn't like to spend money, had money, but the total opposite. And it was like, the more time passed by, I was like, this is so crazy how karma works. And I created and developed this relationship over time. And, you know, there were times where she tried to mother me as a teenager. And she tried to, like, protect. And then when I had Faithlyn, as I got older, you know, I tried to be the peacemaker of it all. Like, look, you guys, for the sake of the kids, should just forget about everything, put it in the past. You know, you guys were friends before. And that's a lot. Like, I asked a lot from my mom. And my mom did that for me. And this lady still turned around and did fucked up shit to me as an adult. So, what do I take away from this? What do I feel like, you know, I'm not perfect, but I know what made me a better person. And I guess we'll talk about why I'm no contact with my dad. I guess when I feel comfortable sharing that. But I felt like this story is so crazy because a lot of kids don't talk about their trauma from the divorce. And I still have friends that call me and they're like, oh my God, you remember this lady and your mom's divorce? Oh my God, that was so crazy and this and that. And we had to move. We had to leave to Tallahassee. And then he called the cops on my mom and told her that she kidnapped us after the divorce. After the fact. My mom was dead broke. We had no money. We lived with my grandfather in Live Oak. He had 20 acres. My mom got in major debt with a trailer. And she had a little neon, which my Uncle Jose helped her get. And she had love and support and a village. And this lady didn't have that. This lady was just like this evil spawn who was in her own corner by herself fighting her own battles. And my mom, you know, my mom attracts people. My mom has this aura about her. And I don't say this because she's my mom. I'm not being biased, I swear. My mom has a thing about her. And, you know, her charisma her light is what inspires people to be better people. She makes me be a want a better, blah. She makes me want to be a better person. And I feel like she could never do that. She's a great grandma. She's a great mom. She's a great friend. She's a great sister, a great daughter, all of those things. And my mom was never lucky in love. And I feel like she just has so much love to give that why even confine it to one person? Like, she tells me, I'm happy by myself. After years, she got remarried, and she married my stepdad, and they were together for like 10 years, but he wanted to have kids, and that was very hard for her. And, you know, they went their separate ways, and my mom stayed alone. And my mom, for the most part, is, you know, the most loving person. She has like the best attitude for everything. She's always willing to help people and go out of her way. And this lady couldn't take that from her. And like, I sit here and I think about it, and I watch that from Summer House, and I'm like, that's so dehumanizing. To drive someone so crazy to the point that they don't want to be here on this earth. Or they would do something stupid and then regret it later. And, you know, my mom tried to stay as sane as possible. And on top of that, my dad did something horrible. And then he just kept doing horrible things. It didn't get better, you know? And I remember I was told after the fact that he found out my mom had basically, you know, done something to herself, and he knew about it, and he left her there. He left her there. And I don't think I ever forgave him for that. But I did move on. And I did do, you know, put things in the past, let's say, to forgive. But the Virgo in me never let that go. Like, how fucking dare you leave my mom there? How dare you not go and get her help? How dare you pretend like you know something but you don't know? And that made me see him. I'm sorry. That made me see him very different. I saw him very cold. I saw him very heartless. I saw him do a lot of heartless things. And a lot of you guys ask me, well, why don't you talk about your dad? You always talk about your mom. And I wish I could erase my dad. I wish that I didn't see things that I see in myself that remind me of him. I feel like that was a grievance process. And I did it. It's been only, 7 years that I've been no contact with him. But at the same time, I did a lot of therapy over the 7 years. Which brings me to this point in my life where I'm able to talk about these things. Even though they're hurtful, I can open them up and talk about them. And share this with other people who probably are like, wait, I went through this horrible heartache when I was little and I never talked about it, And I feel like talking about it helped me a lot. And it made me realize that I wasn't making this horrible decision to find peace in my life. I was making a good decision. And I feel like, a lot of the things with, they have to do with the realm, forbid that. They are like, that's your family and that's this. And what about protecting your peace? What about protecting your children? Because that's where things started getting out of control. Once it became something that wasn't just about hurting me, it was like, okay, you can take shots at my kids. That's when shit got real. That's when I decided, I think this is it for me. Like, I think that there is no coming back from this. And I want to talk about it. And we will talk about it. So come back for part 3. Thank you for listening to me. And yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that next week. Mwah.